The 2024 Law Day theme is Voices of Democracy, recognizes that in democracies, the people rule. For nearly 250 years, Americans have expressed their political views and wishes by speaking their minds and voting in the elections. In 2024, the United States will be holding its 60th presidential election, and Americans will address the fundamental questions about democracy and the rule of law. Our 9th through 12th grade high school students throughout Muskegon County were given the following prompt to provide a 4-minute speech. Democracy thrives on the voices of its citizens, and the rule of law serves as the foundation for a just society. In a speech, explored the essential connection between the voices of the people, the rule of law, and a functioning democracy. The prompt was, how is the essential connection between the voices of the people and the rule of law leading to a functioning democracy? And we have our second place winner for the seniors, Adelline Oliveira, who's going to give her speech first.
Thank you very much for having me today. The rule of law is the foundation of our great democracy. Aristotle first laid out the rule of law in his book, Politics. The rule of law holds all people and organizations accountable to the same set of laws, meaning that no one can act in a manner which is above the law. Aristotle posed the question, is it better to be ruled by the best leader or to be ruled by the best laws? This is a question that plagued our founding fathers when they sought to form a new constitution for our new nation. We now know this debate as the Federalist and Anti-Federalist debate. The question at hand was whether or not to ratify the new US Constitution written by James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay. Some believed that in order for the government to function, it needed to have a stronger, more centralized power. Others, the Anti-Federalists, believe that giving the government power without explicitly stating the rights of the people would lead to the abuse of power and the violation of the rule of law.
She was in it for like 40 years.
George Mason was one such Anti-Federalist. He could not, in good conscience, ratify a constitution which did not hold the government accountable to the rule of law. He used his position as Virginia governor to author the Virginia Declaration of Rights, the Virginia Bill of Rights, and the Virginia Constitution in order to uphold the rule of law and protect the citizens of his state as much as he was able. It was not until the Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution that George Mason and other Anti-Federalists were willing to ratify the United States Constitution. Our founding fathers fought to protect the rights, liberty, and freedom of the people by upholding the rule of law, and they used the voices of democracy to do so. We must build upon their example. The many voices of our democracy must uphold and protect the rule of law. We must speak and act in a manner that holds all who's accountable who seek to be above the law. It is a beautiful paradox that the rule of law does not bind or oppress us. Instead, it protects us and it guarantees our liberty, and it gives a voice to the people of our great democracy. We must continue the fight. We must use the voices that democracy has given to us to protect the rule of law from any onslaught. As former New Jersey Governor Christine Todd Whitman explained, democracies don't have a longevity history, but we have a chance to save this one now. And that means that we have to speak out and we have to be active. It is true that most democracies do not last as long as other forms of government. Venezuela, Hungary, and Turkey are just a few examples of failed democracies. And there is always one common factor between democracies that do fail. This is that the rule of law is neglected, and in turn, the voices of democracy are ignored. Let us learn from the democracies of the past and from their mistakes. Let us embrace the rule of law and see the voices of democracy as being essential to sustaining our great nation. Thank you.
I know you're all thinking, how can you top that? But just keep waiting. Our next speaker is Michayla Assaad, and I just want to say that she has two older brothers who have also competed in Law Day in the speech contest, and both have placed. Her older brother Levi, and then Luke. And Levi was actually third place in the senior contest, and our senior judges actually told him that they were by far one of the best senior class that we've had. But I'm pretty sure, as Michayla is just a freshman, sure she's going to blow both of her brothers out of the water. So next up, Michayla Assaad.
George Washington once said, "The basis of our political system is the right of the people to make and to alter their constitutions of government." But does this quote still ring true today? After reviewing the evidence, one might see that this statement is no longer accurate. I believe that the voices of the people and the rule of law do not currently lead to a functioning democracy, because underage workers are being forced to pay taxes without representation, and gerrymandering and lobbyism are repeatedly being utilized throughout this country. Currently, underage workers are being forced to pay taxes without representation. We need to remember that one of the main reasons for the founding of our great country is because the colonists were frustrated by taxation without representation. Workers under the age of 18 are paying 2% of the total taxes in the United States. Why are they being forced to pay taxes if they're not allowed a voice in the government's policies and leaders? A possible solution to this would be to lower the voting age to 16. This idea has already been discussed by legislators. Gerrymandering is another obstruction towards implementing a properly functioning democracy. It frequently leads to the underrepresentation of United States citizens of color. It also hinders the will of Americans to vote and causes them to feel as if their voices are of no importance. Additionally, it creates biased election results and causes the political race to be less ambitious. In the 2020 redistricting cycle, gerrymandering allowed for the Republican Party to have 2 extra seats on average over the Democratic Party. Another disadvantage is that politicians become complacent because they do not feel that their seats are being threatened by their political rivals, and therefore do not feel the need to carry out the will of the people who put them in that very office. Lobbyism is another concern in the American voting system. Politicians often consider the desires of powerful lobbyists, while the needs of the common man are neglected. Approximately 72% of adult Americans believe that there should be limits on the amount of money lobbyists can spend on political campaigns. With funding limits put in place, elected officials would be better able to follow the desires of their constituents. This would help support and reinforce the rule of law. Within a democratic country, the rule of law is a state where citizens elect their leaders, and the government itself is held accountable by the law. The law should convey the will of the citizens, not just the people or the companies who pay the most money towards political campaigns. People are only willing to obey the laws when they believe they had an influence in the making of the laws. Justice is easiest to achieve when the laws are made by the very people who must follow them. The United States has always been thought of as a democratic country, and its functioning democracy depends on the rule of law. Even before our country was formed, the colonists knew that the laws should govern the people, not individuals such as kings or queens. As Thomas Paine said in his booklet entitled Common Sense, in America, the law is king. The rule of law can only thrive in the United States when citizens believe that each person has an equal voice and that corruption within the voting system is non-existent. Therefore, representation must be equal for all, and the utilization of gerrymandering and lobbyism must be abolished. It is only once these obstacles are removed that the voices of the people and the rule of law may produce a functioning democracy in our great nation. As Sonia Sotomayor declared, I firmly believe in the rule of law as a foundation for all our basic rights. Thank you.
And she's just a freshman. Finally, we have our 12th grade senior speech contest winner. And I have to say about this young lady, she had her entire speech memorized, didn't have any cards, didn't have anything. And we were talking about how long it took her to memorize. And she said, I just started the day before. So I'm not sure how that works, but I'm very excited for all of you to hear her speech, Ms. Takaylah Aubrey.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Takaylah Aubrey, and I'm a senior at Muskegon High School. As a member of this upcoming generation, I need to tell you all today that we have to start focusing on educating and listening to our youth way more than we currently do. The First Amendment landmark case that discusses students' freedom of speech, Tinker versus Des Moines, has already shown us that what students have to say matters. And in my speech today, I'll be talking about just that, student voice. I want to bring to your attention how it helps contribute to a functioning democracy, give some ideas on how to allow more student voice, and also share some poll results about where student voice is today. The main two problems we have when it comes to student voice is that our youth either isn't educated, isn't heard, or both. A youth survey conducted by the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement showed that over half of youth surveyed said that this country is going in the wrong direction. 16% said the opposite and 28% were unsure. It also showed that 76% believe that young people do have the power to change this country, and 77% believe there are ways for the youth to get involved. Another survey conducted by the same research center showed that 50% of 18 to 29-year-olds voted in the 2020 election compared to the only 39% in the previous 2016 election. These results show our students want to be heard, we want to make a change, and we believe we can. And as far as the 28% who are unsure, that just shows the need for better education, the need for allowing these students to form these perspectives to make decisions based off of. We do have a lot to say. A few weeks ago, I participated in Jobs for Michigan Graduates annual career development conference, and students got together in different groups to talk about a real issue and come up with solutions for it. My group won first place, and we won because we see these issues every day. We already have ideas and solutions on how we solve them. We just need to be heard. With this big election coming up, we need to bring in new and different views and opinions. What do our citizens who turned 18 since the 2020 election think about this upcoming one? That's something we have to start asking. I propose to change up our curriculum to include more current events and debate classes and/or forums. Give students the opportunities to have these face-to-face debates so they can learn the proper skills to an actual 50-50 debate where both parties are heard. Nowadays, with all the disconnection and over-talking we have in discussions, learning the proper skills to one is more crucial than ever. I also propose to start up online and/or paper school newspapers about school, community, and world current events. Not only will this help spark student interest, but it'll also lead to more youth engagement, such as voting. It'll lead to new and different perspectives being developed, and overall, more student voice. And I know some would disagree with my proposals and bring up things like money and time, but if it's about money, then at least it's money well spent that'll benefit the future of our democracy. And if it's about time, then just think about the state of our democracy right now and how it's changed over the years. The sooner we make some beneficial changes, the sooner we can see some benefits. I urge you all, when you leave here today, to take a stand. Students, talk to your peers, talk to your families, see what they're thinking and let them know what's on your mind. To the teenagers and anyone else who didn't vote last election, please go vote. Your voice matters. To the parents, tonight, spark up some conversations during dinner. We have to start educating ourselves and each other and using our voice as a whole, and we have to start today. In the famous words of Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.